producers behind the scenes at SKOR North and 1500 ESPN have sports opinions. So they want you to hear them. It's the perfect digital sports soapbox to scratch that Minnesota sports itch. This is the SKOR North Taxi Squad.
Minnesota sports fans, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Taxi Squad. A ton to get into this week with the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, Akers. Obviously, Dalton Risner was signed as well. A ton. We have an Eagles game to recap and an L, unfortunately, for the Vikings, not for us Eagles fans, but conversation for another day. We have a Chargers game to preview. So, of course, we will get to that. But for now, I got to introduce the squad. The voice you hear if you're listening or the face you see if you're watching is Artis Woods. And I'm joined with my guy, Jason Stormer. No AJ Fredrickson today.
What are we going to do, man? How are we even going to carry on? This is like, I think, the first episode the three of us haven't done together since episode 6 or 7 or something like that. Because history lesson for everyone, when we first started Taxi Squad, it was like 5 of us producers. It was Artis, me, AJ, Manny Hill, and Grant Fredrickson as well. But as time went on, schedules got kind of tightened, so it ended up really just being a collection of me, Artis, and AJ. But again, it's been the 3 of us for so long. I don't know what I'm going to do without him.
Yeah,
it's like I've lost my teddy bear at night, and I'm lonely and I'm sad.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's gonna be a little unorthodox this episode without our boy. But I'm sure Jason and I will hold it down. We will hold it down and
yes.
Get right to it, man. Get right to it. Should we start with the recap first, or you want to get to these signings? You want to get to this trade?
I know you want to get to the recap first. I'm surprised that microphone isn't eagle green right now, to be honest with you.
I promised the Vikings fans once, just 1 week. 1 week of me repping my eagle green, my Eagles, shirt. I came out, I think I had this sweater on last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Just 1 week now. We're back neutral. I don't want to do that for another week. I got killed in the comments. I figured I would, but it is what it is. But let's start with the trade and the signing first. I think that's important before we get into the recap and into the preview. So Dalton Risner trading for Akers. Jason, how do you feel about both moves? Because I honestly feel like both moves kind of go hand in hand with each other.
Yes, perfectly in sync. And after these first 2 games, I think, honestly, the Risner move was more essential than the Akers move, to be honest with you. And maybe if the injuries didn't pile up for the Vikings, maybe we would have made the signing. But considering we don't really know the status of Garrett Bradbury, even though he got a limited practice in today, which is good. Hopefully he can play this Sunday against the Chargers. Considering Christian Darrisaw's, and who also practiced today as well, looking good against the Chargers too. There's just a lot of things up in the air with this offensive line right now, with injuries, but also with performance. I hate to put him on a pedestal a little bit, but again, Ed Ingram didn't have a good game against the Philadelphia Eagles. He didn't punch the ball to Kirk Cousins' hands. Thankfully, nothing like that happened, but it still wasn't a good game for him. Austin Schlottman, the backup center, he struggled a ton. Ezra Cleveland struggled as well. It just... There is something about this offensive line. It's so obvious this early in the season that it is just off. They tried to run it back with the same guys. That's tough to do in the NFL. I wasn't necessarily opposed to that, Artis. I was honestly fine with giving Ed Ingram another shot just because it was his rookie year. I expected him to struggle a little bit, but it seems like those struggles from last year are carrying over into this year. And so you're already an 0-2 hole. I mean, we don't know yet if you need a shovel or an excavator to get out of this, but you're in it regardless. And if the Vikings truly want to compete this season, and look, we don't know if Kirk Cousins is coming back next season. We don't know if JJ is going to sign this contract now. We were super optimistic about that a couple weeks ago, that JJ was going to get this deal done. I literally named a podcast episode, "The JJ Deal is Upon Us." You know what I mean? Because Burrow got his deal done. Nick Bosa got his deal done. I just thought, because those were all kind of the big guys that were still holding out. Even Chris Jones got a 1-year deal with Kansas City. I thought this was going to happen. It hasn't happened. There's time for it to still figure itself out, but it kind of left me like, oh boy, what's really the status with that? So the Vikings, what I'm trying to say, they got to keep competing this season. They got to try. If they get into like a 1-5 hole like they got a couple seasons back, at that point, I'm just going to be like, okay, maybe we should think about maybe more draft capital at that point. But as of right now, And it was a quick 0-2 Artis, man. That was pretty devastating because you were 0-2 in 5 days. 5 days, and it was the start of the season. It was just such a gut-wrenching blow. And it was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, Vikings fans have seen a bunch of seasons start horribly, but this one definitely takes the cake in my recent memory. But again, getting back to Risner specifically, this had to happen specifically with him. The question now remains about what position he'll play. I think the assumption is that it'll be right guard because he played nothing but right guard when he was with the Denver Broncos, and obviously that's the position of biggest need for the Minnesota Vikings. But if there's injuries going on all across the line, we may ask this guy to move around a little bit. He even played a little bit of center in college his freshman year, so I mean, I don't know how much experience he has in that recently. But if things keep going the way they have in terms of the health of the Vikings offensive line, he absolutely had to do this move.
Yeah, this is a move that I think both of us, I don't remember what AJ said. I believe AJ agreed when we both said that this move should happen before the season started. Like the moves this offseason or the lack thereof still kind of leave me confused. We talk about, addressing edge rusher because you lost to Darius Smith, and then you got into the situation with Danielle Hunter where it's like, okay, we got to re-sign him because we got nobody else to rush the passer. And we knew the offensive line was an issue before the season started. We knew that. And now with injuries all over the place, it's a bigger issue. And now you're finally deciding to make this move. It's a move that should have been made. Now, how much he'll improve the offensive line production, I'm not 100% sure, but at the end of the day, it's a move that needed to be made. At the end of the day, you had to make the move. As far as Cam Akers is concerned, okay, maybe I was wrong about Alexander Mattison. Maybe. I'm not 100% certain that I was wrong yet. I think the Vikings. I'm trying to give myself a little grace here.
Let's squeeze through this very short, narrow. You got this.
They went up against, so far this season, 2 really good defenses, especially against the run. Obviously, Tampa Bay took a step back as far as run defense last year, but they're still historically known under Todd Bowles to be a decent or very solid run defense. And so, I mean, you went up against 2 really solid run defense. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line, I called that. I knew that Mattison wouldn't have a big day against that defensive line. I just knew that wasn't going to happen. And so signing Cam Akers right now feels like a bit of a reach to me at the moment. Just having another day to kind of rest on it and think about it. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but maybe it was because I'm so high on Mattison. And literally everybody you talk to in this town will tell you that I'm an idiot for thinking that he would come in and have 1,000 yards. I mean, I don't know. Ultimately,
I thought that was possible too. I was kind of right there with you.
Exactly. I mean, ultimately, it is what it is. I think they're making the necessary moves to compete right now, and I respect that. I do think Cam Akers does improve your running back room. It makes me question what's going on with Ty Chandler, that you had to go get another running back, honestly, because I think Ty Chandler is decent. I think he's a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, make a couple moves. He's speedy, he's elusive, evasive, So it makes me kind of question that. But I think at the end of the day, I said these 2 moves go hand in hand because the offensive line has had issues so far this season. And if the offensive line has issues, then you're not going to really be able to run the ball effectively either against 2 really good run-stopping defenses. And that's kind of what we've seen the first 2 weeks of the season. So those are just my quick thoughts. Again, we'll see how much these moves benefit the team. But Dalton Risner had to get signed. Like that was it should have been done.
He should have been signed when he came into camp the first time. I don't know what took so long. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm happy the Vikings have the self-awareness that the offensive line isn't good, but like, why did it have to be 2 weeks late or like a couple weeks late? You know what I mean? He was in-house. He was there. What were you waiting for? I mean, sure, like you want to give Ed Ingram a chance because he was a 3rd-round pick. You invested a decent amount into him, but this is the NFL, man. If you know that something's just not working out, you got to figure out a way to just not necessarily move on, but at least replace whatever that deficiency is with something that's going to help you out. And unfortunately, it just isn't working out. Now, this editing room, I meant Cam Akers. I mean, we gave up like a 2026 like 6th round conditional pick that I think can turn into maybe a 5th, maybe a 7th. I don't really know, but that is like one of the most lowest forms of draft compensation you can possibly offer. And for that alone, I'm like 2 thumbs up with this Cam Akers move. Now, there may have been maybe some attitude issues going back in LA, even though wasn't anything publicly, anything that was really reported about Cam Akers being like benched or anything, that it was more just framed as like the coaching staff, Sean McVay, didn't really see eye to eye with how he fit with the team. I believe Diana Rossini put out a whole thing about this today on The Athletic, pretty much stating exactly that McVay even sat down with him, told him that the things were just not working out. This may have even happened before this season, and that they're going to look to move on from him. So I don't think it's like, I don't think there's like an attitude issue really with Cam Akers, so I'm not really worried about that coming into the Vikings locker room or anything like that. It's just, you literally had to give up nothing for this guy. And yes, there is some debate about how much he has in the tank. He had an Achilles injury that's devastating for running backs. He hasn't really, people would say he hasn't really been the same guy since that. But he's 24 years old. He's still young by even running back standards. And if he has anything right now to offer this running game, maybe we won't see that a lot in this Chargers game because he's still learning the playbook. I bet he'll get in the game, maybe get a couple reps in, because I believe he was inactive for that Rams game last week. I think they just like straight up benched him, and like Kyron Williams, or I think that's the running back now for LA, just go off there. And so I feel bad for Madison just because it has only been 2 games. The offensive line has been absolutely beaten down. And so I don't think he really has been given much of a chance to really succeed, but it still looks stale. He still looks like he's not really being too creative at the line of scrimmage, just kind of like plowing into the linemen, not really hitting those holes. Not that there are a lot of holes to begin with right now for this Vikings offensive line. So even though like I want Cam Akers to play a decent amount, Artis, I want this, if this backfield could potentially get into like a 50-50 split, I think that would be the best case scenario. I still think Madison will be the starting running back, or who they favor as a starting running back moving forward, because again, Akers he needs to learn the playbook and everything, get into things. But yeah, I still think this was a necessary move. You are literally bottom of the NFL right now in rushing. Bottom of the NFL right now in rushing. In terms of total yards, you are dead last. And again, like I stated earlier, you got to compete this season. You got to dig out of this hole. You got to dig out of this hole right now, because even though the Chargers are 0-2 as well, the schedule doesn't get easier after that. You got San Francisco, Kansas City, all that kind of stuff. So it starts. I know. We said that after the Bucs game too, and look how that turned out. But yeah, again, the draft compensation was literally 0 for this guy. And if you can, I mean, honestly, I think of shades of like a Howie Roseman getting DeAndre Swift from the Lions, even though obviously you guys had to give up more for that. That's what I'm kind of hoping. If you can even get like half of what DeAndre Swift was against the Minnesota Vikings, Cam Akers, like I will be totally fine with that. And but like you said, I'm worried that Ty Chandler is just not getting enough trust out of this coaching staff to really be invested in a ton. And you know what? Hopefully this helps Cam too, because he actually worked with KOC for a little bit and is familiar with him and Wes Phillips as well. So even if it doesn't work out, you gave up nothing for the guy. So even if you have to bench him as well, Minnesota Vikings, for just the season, because he's only under contract for just this season, this is just like low risk, high reward in the ultimate capacity. And I'm fine with that.
I just wonder what was seen in camp and what was seen, in OTAs and things of that nature. Like what was seen this offseason that made them comfortable to roll out the running back core that they ran out with this to start the season? Because I mean, I was confident, but I'm not there. I'm going off of what I've seen in the past, and I thought I've seen enough for Madison to, be that bell cow and come in and do what he needs to do. And I thought that the offensive line was, decent enough, maybe not to protect Kirk, but at least to run protect or run block. And I just wonder what was seen this offseason. And I wonder if, JJ's contract, if that was a thought, and, TJ Hawkinson's contract, if that was a thought, if all of those things kind of came up and made them second guess what moves they should make financially heading into this season, because obviously we knew what the holes were. And I just wonder, like you said, why now? I mean, I guess I get why now, because you have to. But why didn't you do these things before? You knew that these were issues. There's no way that you didn't know these things were issues heading into the season. That's my issue. You could have addressed these two issues before the 0-2 start. Now, that's not to say if you had Risner and you had Cam Akers, you would win the first two games. But if they come in and make an immediate difference, then I am going to be looking like, yo, again, these moves could have better late than never, but you should have started the season off with these two moves. So, and neither one of them are expensive moves to make, like you just highlighted. So, I don't know. I mean, like you said, they brought in Dalton earlier and they talked to him. I'm sure they negotiated. You know, Kirk had on 66 and, you know, in practice and all of that, trying to recruit him. I know people are like, oh, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he just threw it on. No, he's smart. He's smart. Yeah. He wanted to bring him in. You know, he didn't just do that. I don't believe in coincidences. So, I mean, I don't know. But listen, like I said, better late than never. Hopefully they both come in and make immediate impact and, you know, help this run game and help protect Kirk Cousins, because he's taken some hits these first 2 weeks.
Yeah. And the turnovers got to figure, like, that's got to balance itself out, right? Artis, like,
it was very flukish for the Vikings it was very flukish last season for the Vikings to win all those one-score games. But now it is also flukish for them to be turning the ball over 7 times in 2 weeks. And these aren't like you got, I think, 1 interception from Kirk, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check the numbers, but these are a fumbled, you know, punt return. You know, Alexander Madison fumbled like literally 2 inches away from the ground. You know, Maddox punched the ball out. We got Justin Jefferson's fumble over the pylon that turned into a touchback. And these are like,
what the heck,
stuff, man? It's flukish stuff. I know. Man. I'm not gonna lie. So
especially because the botched punt and the Madison fumble were back to back too. Those were back to back plays, and it's just like, you can't believe it. And Vikings fans, I know the touchback rule out of the end of the end zone is stupid. Yes, everybody know that's a dumb rule, but I don't want to hear that as an excuse as why the Vikings lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I told you yesterday that, like, damn, if they would have had just 1 less turnover, I bet the Vikings would have won that game. Honestly, because no offense, I mean, the Eagles still look a little bit flat, but we talked about this yesterday a little bit when we were at work, that they still have some things to figure out. But good teams can afford to be sloppy a little bit when they're really, really good teams. They still figure out how to win. And so even if the Eagles don't look like super like a well-oiled machine right now, I think it's going to get going eventually. But yeah, what I'm nervous about, Artis, besides the 0-2 hole, what I'm nervous about is just, like you mentioned, I want this regime, this GM, this leadership to not be forced to do reactionary moves. You know what I mean? I don't want them to have to be like, oh, no, we were wrong. We got to fix this now. I want them to be able to identify the problem or a potential problem and have a contingency plan already lined up about how to fix it. I don't like going into the season not as confident as you should be. Now, and again, you got to work with the players that you work with. I understand that, but that was a huge criticism of Rick Spielman's tenure with the Vikings, is that he waited too long to do certain things and he rolled things back too often. And that was something that a lot of Vikings fans talked about in terms of criticizing him. So I hope this is a learning opportunity for Kwesi, that, all right, let's just make sure we got all of our ducks in a row before the season starts. But again, even if you would have signed Risner, if you would have traded for Cam Akers, doesn't mean you're not still 0-2. In fact, I think you probably still had a good chance of being 0-2, even if you still had these guys on the roster.
I don't like the fact that they waited as long as they waited to make these signings, because again, I believe they saw a lot of these issues in training camp. What I will say though, on the flip side, some optimism here. You know, what I will say is I do like the mindset of, okay, I see an issue now during the regular season. Let's adjust. Let's go and make certain moves, because there's not a lot of GMs that will spot an issue during the season and go sign players to fill certain holes. So I will say that, you know, not to bring up Philly, Sorry, Vikings fans. But one thing I do like about Howie Roseman is last season when they lost to Washington, what did he do? He went and got Ndamukong Suh. He went and got Linval Joseph immediately. One could say, why didn't you sign those players before? XYZ. Well, obviously you were counting on Jordan Davis to be healthy. He got hurt, and that kind of shifted things. But the moment he saw an issue, he went and made 2 big signings that helped us get to where we got at the end of the season. And so I do like that proactive attitude where it's like, okay, this is the hole. This is what's going on. I'm gonna make the adjustments right now on the spot. I do think that's a good trait to have. But again, this is one of those issues that I believe should have been addressed earlier. But hey, we're here.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, there's precedent for Kwesi doing this stuff already. He made the move for TJ Hawkinson midseason. Right. So this guy is not afraid to pull the trigger potentially on something like this if he realizes, hey, either a good deal has come my way or, oh boy, we have some deficiencies on this team. I need to fix this. I need to fix this now. Yes, at least he is doing that. Again, Bud, my thing is I want you to be able to figure out that stuff before the season starts. Again, doesn't mean anything changes for this Vikings team. But I tell you what, another reason to be optimistic, Artis, this division stinks.
Yes.
This division is not good at all. The Lions came back down to earth with an overtime loss to the Seahawks. Packers came back down to earth with they blew a 24-12 lead in the fourth quarter of the Falcons. Hey, the fourth quarter for the Falcons actually went well for them. They actually didn't blow a lead in the fourth quarter this time. By the way, I know. And by the way, the broadcaster who trolled Matt Ryan by bringing that up on his first broadcast, which I think was the Vikings game, what are you doing? What are you bringing that up for? Come on, the man. That's like one of the worst things a quarterback has ever had to endure in the Super Bowl. Why you got to bring it up, man? It's in the past now. But dude, like the Bears are imploding. Look, we've seen a lot of ineptitude with Chicago Bears in our day, and it's been juicy content to absorb as Vikings fans. But this is getting weird. We got Justin Fields calling out his offensive coordinators. We have a defensive coordinator resigning under somewhat mysterious circumstances that I don't think have been fully reported yet or been willing to report on yet. So honestly, like as I mentioned earlier, this 0-2 hole, do we need a shovel or an excavator? Thankfully, the rest of the NFC North is making it look like we maybe need just a shovel because nobody has been impressive right now.
And I figured the division, the division isn't a powerhouse division right now. Now, I do have to be, transparent because I did have the Bears being really good this year. I had a lot of faith in Justin Fields. Call me an idiot. Oh, what were you thinking? Hey, I just thought that the additions that they made in the offseason would help, the team improve and help him improve. It's his third year as a starter. I just thought he would be better. He is not good.
Dude.
It has not been pretty. He is missing reads left and right. I know the offensive line isn't where they want it to be, but he's holding on to the ball for 3 years while guys are running wide open. It's not a good look. He blamed his coaching staff, then tried to reel it back. And, you just brought up all the stuff with the defense coordinator. So I don't know what's going on with Chicago, but that's going to continue to snowball. Like that's going to continue to snowball. I would not count on the Lions losing a ton of games, though. I do think they're going to be a decent team this year. And honestly, the Packers are going to be a wild card team because even though they blew that lead, I do like what I've seen out of Jordan Love. I'm not going to lie. I do like what I've seen out of Jordan Love. But they're going to lose some games too. So the Vikings are in this division. They're in the hunt. They just have to stop turning the ball over, Jason. That's the key. That is the key. They win. I believe they're 2-0 right now with 2 less turnovers. Yeah. I think, like you said, they beat Philadelphia without the Justin Jefferson fumble. That's my take. Because you go into halftime probably up, 14-10 or, maybe 14-13, depending on what Philly does or if they get the ball back. But the way that fumble occurred, it kind of gave Philadelphia life. It gave them life. And obviously the Vikings couldn't stop the run either. So that's what helped them get in the red zone. It was like 3 runs and then a Jalen Hurts, QB draw. But if they score that touchdown, that kind of takes the life out of the building. You're all of a sudden down 14-10 to a team that a lot of Philly fans, including myself, didn't think you would be down to heading into halftime. And I think you just have a different approach if you're the coaching staff of Philadelphia. Maybe, again, they couldn't stop the run. So maybe they still get the field goal because it's like they tried to run the clock out either way, but the Vikings couldn't stop the run. And then it was like, whoa, wait, we just got 5 yards. Okay, 10 yards. Okay, another 10 yards. Okay, let's, continue to, do this thing and get in field goal range. So maybe it still happens, but I say all that to say you still walk into halftime with the lead, at least by a point at the very least, and you get the ball back at half. And so, I think it just sways momentum quite a bit. And the Vikings are in these games so long as they don't turn the football over. They can score with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They can score with anybody.
Yeah. No, Kirk is on it. Yeah.
Jefferson, he had a massive game, as we saw. Hockenson, middle of the field. Like I said,
hey, where are those Eagles linebackers at? Where are they at? Man, I still can't see them.
middle of the field was wide open, as I predicted. And so he was able to, I think he had 66 yards for like 2 touchdowns, somewhere around in there. So he had a really good game. Addison is a dog. He is a dog. And so they can score with anybody, which kind of leads me into this Chargers talk, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about what happened against Philadelphia. I don't want to.
You don't have to lie to our audience. You don't have to lie to the audience, Artis. You don't have to lie to the audience.
No, I don't. I did a whole separate podcast talking about that, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. Kind of want to.
But he could, ladies and gentlemen. He absolutely could. If we asked him to, he could turn this into an Eagles-Lakers podcast immediately.
Oh, please,
immediately.
Click that AJ2K. You'll find all kind of content. I'll leave it at there.
There we go.
Full time out. Check it out. Anyway, this is what I will say about this upcoming game against the Chargers. And I'm not going to say a score yet, but I really think the Vikings, without saying too much, I think the Vikings have a really good chance at beating the Chargers this upcoming week, seeing as though their defense is terrible. Speaking on the Chargers, like their pass defense is, if I'm not mistaken, last. Let me just double check. Last in the NFL. Their run defense is kind of middle of the pack. Yes, literally last in the NFL, right? 2 weeks in, but they're last. Their run defense is kind of middle of the pack. But I do expect the Vikings to be able to run the ball a little bit better now. Just seeing as though you're not going up against 2 really tough run stopping defenses. The Chargers are middle of the pack, but you can run the ball against the Chargers. This will be more so about Kirk Cousins dropping back, slinging the football. And I don't think that the Chargers really have any answers to slow the Vikings offense down. And I also, even though it's an 0-2 start, I like what I've seen out of Brian Flores so far. I really do. Yeah. I think he was really decent in the Tampa Bay game. I think he was really solid against Philadelphia as well. They were able to get to Jalen Hurts. They were able to frustrate the Eagles offense. We saw the Vikings turn the ball over and the Eagles have the ball in the red zone and not be able to put up touchdowns, because Brian Flores is bringing that pressure and playing ultra aggressive in ways that the old defensive coordinator just wasn't playing. And so you combine those two things. I think the Vikings defense is a little better. I believe their offense is right on par. I think the Vikings have a very good chance at winning a must-win game against Herbert and the Chargers.
Yeah, I do too. Cousins is right now on pace to break the NFL record for passing yards. He's supposed to break, I think the record is just under 6,000, and he is on pace to break that right now. That probably won't keep pace, but this is reminiscent of Kirk's very first couple games with the Vikings when John DeFilippo was still the coordinator. Before he got let go that season. I mean, Kirk was just, honestly, that was probably the most optimistic Vikings fans have ever been about Kirk Cousins, was those first couple games against the Packers, and I forget who the other team was, but it was just a show. It was explosive. It was so much fun, and that's kind of been what's going on this season. But obviously, the whole turnovers and the results of the games have kind of muddied a ton of things where Vikings fans aren't really focusing too much on that right now. And yeah, JJ figured out big play Slay a little bit. Slay still, I think, had a good game, but Justin Jefferson is still just too darn good. Yeah, okay. He's just still too darn good that he actually finally figured out that Eagles secondary a little bit. But yeah, for this game,
they moved them around in the offense quite a bit. So that helped a lot too.
Now, the thing with the Chargers here, though, is that they're dealing with some pretty significant injuries offensively and defensively. Both Austin Eckler and Joey Bosa did not practice, and we're recording this as of Thursday, September 21st. They did not practice today. Things are not looking great for them. Also, Eric Kendricks, former Minnesota Viking linebacker, I believe he's also questionable right now. I don't know if he got a practice in today, but it looks like his status for this game is up in the air. But Vikings still have some issues as well. We obviously have talked about the offensive line things. Garrett Bradbury got a limited action today. Darisaw got limited action today. Marcus Davenport, though, I believe didn't practice again with this ankle injury. And we thought he was going to be the complementary piece to Danielle Hunter, and we can't get this guy on the field right now. And so it's already looking like, we're going to be 3 straight weeks out without Marcus Davenport. And my question to that is, all right, if he's going to miss at least 3 games, likely probably going to miss 4, why didn't we put this guy on IR? Do a roster spot move? I don't really know why.
Maybe they thought he'd be back sooner.
Yeah, but like this has happened before with the Vikings because I can't remember who the player was, but there was another player who was on IR like last year or the year before who missed ended up 5 or 6 games, and everybody was wondering, okay, why didn't we put this guy on IR? And I get it. Like, some of these injuries are week to week, and sometimes, these players tweak these injuries as they're trying to get ready for this kind of stuff. I believe that was the situation for Marcus Davenport with the Eagles game. He tried to go in the warm-ups and stuff like that and just realized that it's just not going to work. But anyway, back to the losses for the Chargers. Look, Austin Eckler is obviously one of the best running backs in all the league, but I still expect the Chargers offense to still put up pretty good numbers. They've been doing that so far all season long. Their passing game has been electric. Keenan Allen looks really, really good, which I'm sure a lot of fantasy football players are really happy about that because Keenan Allen has had some injury issues the last couple of years, and he's gotten some things put together so far this season. Mike Williams is really good, and I think they'll still be able to run the ball decently even without Eckler. But still, it is going to force the Chargers to make a lot of passes downfield. They're not going to be able to dump it off in the flat, get some screens going from Eckler, because that's where he is at his most dangerous. So I think even though I don't even know if this Chargers offense has turned the ball over yet, I wouldn't be shocked if that happens a couple times in this game. Brian Flores.
They haven't turned the ball over at all yet.
No, they haven't, right. I'm expecting Brian Flores to blitz a lot in this game, a lot, especially if Austin Eckler isn't going to play. And I don't know how much the Chargers trust their running backs to pick up a blocker, their backup running backs to pick up blockers either. And so I'm expecting the Vikings to do pretty dang good. I'm hoping this will be their best defensive game so far of the season. But again, this Chargers offense, even without Eckler, is going to be really explosive. But without Joey Bosa, that is going to be something the Vikings absolutely should exploit on offense for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be there. It's gonna be there. Again, I hate to harp on this again, but it's a winnable game so long as you're not turning the ball over. At the end of the day,
which you can't guarantee with this Viking squad right now.
Unless the Chargers turn the ball over a ton, which I doubt that they will, because offensively they have been pretty efficient. It's a wrap if you turn the ball over. Just put it like that. It's a wrap because the Chargers can't put up points in bunches. And so, again, I think it was very flukish to start the season off with 7 turnovers in 2 games. As long as they don't turn the ball over in this football game, it'll be there. Because, again, the Chargers defense is not stopping Justin Jefferson. It's not stopping Jordan Addison. It's just not. It's not stopping Hawkinson. It's just not. And I think Kirk is due for another huge game. Like you said, he's on pace to break, the passing yards record. It's going to look like he's still on pace by the end of this game. It should look like he's still on pace by the end of this game to break that record because I think he'll put up great numbers. I think it may turn into a shootout. But again, I believe in Brian Flores' defensive philosophy, and I think he'll be able to get to Herbert and make the necessary stops to ice this game. Now, it's 2 desperate teams, 2 0-2 teams, so I think it will be tight, but I think the Vikings have all the tools they need to win this game. If you lose this game, though,
dude,
with the upcoming schedule looking the way it's looking, we keep on talking about this. It's not going to get pretty from there. You need this win. You need this win. This is the worst defense you'll probably play all season. And so you need this win. Herbert is going to make it close. But again, I keep on saying this, but we all know it's the truth. Just don't turn the ball over 3-4 times in one game. I think they will be just fine. I think they'll be just fine.
You think it wouldn't be hard to ask your favorite football team to do that, but with this Minnesota Vikings squad, when you turn the ball over 7 times in 8 quarters, what are you going to do?
It's literally been unbelievable. I thought after week 1, it's like there's no way they're going to do it again. And then they did it another 3-4 times in the Eagles game. And as an Eagles fan, I'm not going to lie, I was like, oh, thank God. But
classic Minnesota Vikings.
As a Vikings fan, it's like, yo, this is absurd. I don't know if I've seen that, honestly.
Well, so welcome to our lives, man. This is life. This is life for all of us. We don't get Super Bowls or Super Bowl appearances. We get this.
Yeah.
It's great.
So yeah, I think they'll be fine. You want to do scores? I'm ready to do a quick score?
Yes, let's do that. Let's get you the line here. Again, as of Thursday, September 21st, this line is favored out. A 1-under for the Minnesota Vikings with an over-under of 54. Now, here's the interesting thing. Obviously, no AJ Fredrickson today. We miss him terribly. I asked him if he could text us his score prediction, and he never did. So we get to predict for him. I think that's what that means. We'll be appropriate. We won't be like 3-3 tie or something like that. We won't. Right. We won't be mean, but we'll have to pick something on the fly. How about I pick the winning score, you pick the losing score, and we'll go from there.
For AJ?
But we'll go first. We get the benefit to go first. So, all right, my prediction here, like you said, Artis, this is going to be a close game. These are two very desperate teams. You could even make an argument that the Chargers are more desperate because Brandon Staley probably has the hottest seat out of any NFL coach right now besides Matt Eberflus. So he is going to want to have a fantastic game because if the Chargers go 0-3, I mean, that might not be something they can salvage themselves out of, especially in a very competitive division that you got to go up against Kansas City twice. So even without Eckler, even without Bosa, this is going to be a motivated squad. But your Minnesota Vikings are equally motivated. Not a very good division the NFC North is turning out to be, so the Vikings definitely want to take advantage of one of the better, which is weird saying, one of the better 0-2 starts you could probably ask for. Your division's not very good. So I'm going to say a final score. Let's see, what's that, over 54 again? All right, again, this is going to be close, very, very close. I'm going to say a final score of 30-28. Minnesota Vikings get the win over the San Diego Chargers. They're not the LA Chargers. There should only be one football team in Los Angeles. It's stupid. Anyway, end rant. What's your score prediction, Artis?
Our scores are very similar. I got the Vikings 31-27 in this game. Okay. I believe, again, they're going to put up some points, but they can't stop anybody. And I believe the Vikings at the end of the day can get the necessary stops to slow that offense down and get the dub. So I got the Vikings 31-27. Bold prediction. I don't think the Vikings turn the ball over one time in this game. Put it in one time.
So I don't think they
turn it. I think, again, it's been so flukish that they turned it over so much that it's extra emphasis on not turning the ball over this week. Right. I don't think they turn the ball over one time in this football game, and I think they get the win because I think that's going to be necessary because the Chargers, again, have not turned the ball over at all yet, or at least Herbert hasn't. So
they're due.
So they're due for a game to not turn the ball over, and the Chargers may be due for a game to turn the ball over. You never know, but I wouldn't count on it. So I get the necessary stops, flush to Herbert in the pocket, get to him, get some sacks. To ice that game. I think he'll have the ball late, but I think you can get to him in the pocket, seal the deal. I think Justin Jefferson has another great game. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Addison. And I think it's another, 300, 400-yard passing game for Kirk Cousins, 2-3 touchdowns. I think it's going to be probably the most exciting, 0-2 game from both teams we've seen in a long time. Like both teams are 0-2, but it's still going to be fun to watch because both offenses are extremely explosive. So I see it being that type of game, but I think the Vikings walk away with a win, and then we feel a little differently about this team going forward.
All right, so now what do we do for our good friend, Mr. AJ Fredrickson? You said 31-27. I said 30-28. We can't have the exact same score. So for AJ, I will say that the Vikings. And you know what? You can predict that the Chargers beat the Vikings for AJ, by the way. We could do that, by the way. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. What should we do? Should we have him pick the Vikings or pick the Chargers?
I don't know, because we don't know how he feels, man. So
well, he's not here, so let's have him pick the Chargers. Let's just do it. Let's just we pick the Vikings. Let's have him pick the Chargers. Let's show that we're unbiased here on the Taxi Squad a little bit. Okay. All right. So if the Vikings are going to lose to the Chargers, I say that the Chargers will get 33 points.
Ooh.
We're talking about this could be a shootout. I mean,
this is true.
I said 30. 33 is not that much more egregious.
33 28.
33-28. Okay.
28.
Oh, wait. AJ just texted us. Hold on. Oh, he just sent us a movie. Okay. Hold on.
It is. There it is.
Oh, I wish I could stall a little bit. I don't know how to do this really, but I wish I could get it online. Hold on. Maybe I can email it to myself really, really fast and get it on the Taxi Squad really, really fast. Stalling. This might not work in time. This was literally the worst possible time for him to send this to us. He could have sent it.
Should we just play it over the microphone and see?
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'll play it over the microphone here. I'll even try to get close to the camera. We're just improvising here. Welcome to Taxi Squad, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get really close. Really, this is so silly. Okay. Here's AJ, everybody. Okay. All right. Oh, the ring. Hold on. I'm going to turn off the ring camera really bit.
There we go. Right. There we go.
What's up, Taxi Squad? AJ here. I'm at my event. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to the broadcast tonight. We'll be back next week. But let's get into it. Vikings taking on the Chargers. It's going to be a close game. Both teams 0-2. Both teams need a win. It's going to be a dogfight, and I think it's going to be one of those games that comes down to the final few seconds, maybe even the last minute. It's going to be a close game. It's not going to be. When do the Vikings ever have a not close game? Let's be honest. So I do think that this is a must-win game for both teams, like I just said. But the Vikings have to have it. They have to. I'm going to give them the edge, even though I don't think they deserve it with how they've played with their turnovers. I think this is the week they finally get their turnover issues figured out. They're going to have one fumble, but that's not going to be enough to actually turn the tides. They are going to win 28-24, Vikings over Chargers.
All right. There we go. 28-24.
Forget everything we said. We didn't actually pick for AJ. He literally texted that at the perfect time. Maybe not for production value wise, but I mean, that worked out better than I thought it would. All right, 28-24. We're all picking the Vikings this week. I think we've all picked the same teams every week so far. None of us have been afraid to branch off from each other. We trust each other. We trust each other's opinions and stuff.
We all have the same kind of mindset with all of these games so far.
Yeah. So. I mean, the last time we all picked the Vikings to win though was the Bucs game. So, and that the leg in our face after that one. But
we're due though. We're due to all be right again. So let's just put it like
that. We got the Philly predictions right. We all. Except for Artis, we all unfortunately nailed that one. Artis was happy about nailing that prediction. So yeah, I had, what did I say, 30-28, you had 31-27, AJ 28-24. We all think the Vikings will get it done. Artis, we got any last thoughts before we probably wrap things up today?
Not necessarily, man. Just can't wait to have AJ back in the fold, man. But this was fun though. This was a good
you
episode.
And me time, we don't do this often enough. You know what I mean?
Tag team, man.
Just the two
Matt
of us.
And Jeff Hardy.
Huh? Oh, are you talking wrestlers?
Yes.
See, I haven't watched wrestling since 2009. The last time I watched wrestling, John Cena was going up against Sheamus for some kind of heavyweight title, and I don't really remember it. I don't remember anything really after that. So I know I'm not a big wrestler guy, but I like it. I hope WrestleMania comes to the Twin Cities. There was rumblings about that happening. I don't know if it's going to happen now, but I know Phil and Declan and those guys kind of got, and AJ too. AJ's a big wrestling guy. They got kind of excited about that happening. But let's see. Any last words for me? Fortunately, Minnesota Lynx lost in the playoffs. Lost Game 3 last night to the Connecticut Sun. So season's unfortunately done for them. But good job making the playoffs again this year. So that's great. I'm wearing my Twins hat today, actually, because there is a chance your Minnesota Twins clinch the AL Central tonight. I don't know the result of the Tigers game. I think they play the Dodgers later. But if they lose and Cleveland loses and they're tied 2-2 with Baltimore right now, the AL Central belongs to your Minnesota Twins. They got a game at tomorrow night, Friday at Target Field, and hopefully that will be a very celebratory atmosphere, and the Twins fans will be able to celebrate an AL Central Division Championship, even though their team's only 9 games over 500. But we don't want to talk about that. We're just happy that we're getting in the playoffs. Artis, we did it. We missed AJ. We did it. We got the video on there. We got proof. We got proof that he's still with us and stuff. And so, all right, let's get out of here and send the lovely listeners on their way home, shall we?
Yes. I'm closing. I almost forgot.
Yeah, you opened the show. You got to close it. Yeah.
Yes. Make sure you guys give us a 5-star rating on whichever platform you guys are listening to this on or watching this on. If you have any thoughts, obviously comment in the comment section. But for now, Artis Woods, Jason Stormer, we are signing off. Catch you next time on the next episode of the Taxi Squad.